Thank you, Jeff. I'm the Reverend Rachael Hayes, minister of our congregation. I use she, her pronouns. Here we are having another snow day service on Zoom. Make yourself comfortable, settle in for some time together with our congregation. Our opening words were written by Rich Orloff, and I'm going to look at your faces on gallery view as I read them. Maybe you want to look at gallery view as well, or maybe just let the words wash over you. As I look at you, I can see you deserve appreciation, not based on your potential or what you've accomplished, not despite your flaws, but simply because you exist. I don't look at a tree and think that's a beautiful tree despite its blemishes and bruises, despite broken branches, despite years of weathering. I just look at the tree with awe. And I've never looked at a tree and thought that tree would be so beautiful if it only had 6 more leaves. So I look at you with all your blemishes and bruises and broken branches and years of weathering, and I conclude you are a gift of nature. And I look at you with awe. Though we're not in one room together, I invite you to say the chalice lighting words with me as I light our chalice this morning. We light this flame to invite a world of peace, where we heal the wounds, where we share what we have with one another, where justice is another word for relationship, and we listen for what love has to say. Our first hymn this morning is We Laugh, We Cry. It is number 354 if you happen to have a hymnal singing verses 1 and 4, and we'll also share the words on the screen.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we thank friends that we gather every week, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a need to be together, and we have hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is the answer. We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all waste of human strife. We search for truth and quality and blessed peace of mind. And then we welcome to hear, to make sense of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a joy being together. And in our search for peace, maybe we'll finally see, even to question truly is an answer.
Our first reading comes from Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 13. If I speak in the tongues of humans and of angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable. It keeps no record of wrongs. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. But as for prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. And now, faith, hope, and love remain. These three. And the greatest of these is love. You might know that as the wedding reading. Maybe it was part of your wedding, or you read it at your cousin's wedding, and it helped the guests feel comfortable in a time of family transition. But Paul's letter was written to the church in Corinth, not Mr. and Mrs. Corinthian. It's definitely not a relationship self-help book. Sometime around the year 55 of the Common Era, Paul writes to the church in Corinth because they're trying to figure out how to be a church together, how to hold this thing together until the second coming, which is coming pretty soon, right? Nearly 2,000 years later, this does hit a little differently. Some of Paul's audience, those who were Jewish followers of Jesus like himself, were formed by the story of Moses and the Israelites' exodus from Egypt, wandering in the desert for 2 generations. Jesus is only gone about 20 years when Paul writes to the church in Corinth. And they know that sometimes the working of God takes the long road. Paul wants the church to be ready for the second coming, but also durable enough to last for a few decades in case it takes time. There is precedent, after all. The church in Corinth, as we can tell from the full letter, contained men and women and children, slave and free, and believers of both Jewish and Greek origin. They had heard the gospel from different teachers, and the second half of the Bible, the part about Jesus, had not been written down yet. There was no standard text. There was no standard practice. Some people were speaking in undecipherable tongues. Some were prophesying to the group. Some were making ostentatious donations. Some were trying to have worship and communion before the others could arrive. It was kind of a mess. Paul couldn't be the arbiter of every single issue from far away. And instead of writing their bylaws, he offers the church in Corinth a treatise on love. Above all other virtues, even above faith, belief in the story they had been taught, and hope in the resurrection to come, love, what we do in the present together, is greater than what we believe about stories of the past or what we hope for in the future. The attributes of love are patience, kindness, nobody bragging or keeping score. In short, nobody wins church. If someone's winning, it's probably not love. I can see why we read this at weddings, but what happens when we all treat each other like this, not just our spouses? Let's sing one of our favorite hymns, which was adapted from these verses, hymn number 34, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire.
Though I may speak with bravest fire, and have the gift to all inspire, and have not love my words in vain, as sounding brass and hopeless gain. Though I may give with all access, and striving so my love profess, but not begin my love within, the prophet soon turns strangely thin. Come, Spirit, come, our hearts control, our spirits long to be made whole. Let inward love guide every need. By this we worship and are freed.
Our second reading is from All About Love by Bell Hooks. Imagine how much easier it would be for us to learn how to love if we began with a shared definition. The word love is most often defined as a noun, yet all the more astute theorists of love acknowledge that we would all love better if we used it as a verb. I spent years searching for a meaningful definition of the word love and was deeply relieved when I found one in psychiatrist Scott Peck's classic self-help book, The Road Less Traveled, first published in 1978. Echoing the work of Erich Fromm, he defines love as the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. Explaining further, he continues, love is as love does. Love is an act of will, namely both an intention and an action. Will also implies choice. We do not have to love, we choose to love. Since the choice must be made to nurture growth, this definition counters the more widely accepted assumption that we love instinctually. To begin by always thinking of love as an action rather than a feeling is one way in which anyone using the word in this manner automatically assumes accountability and responsibility. We are often taught that we have no control over our feelings, yet most of us accept that we choose our actions, that intention and will inform what we do. We also accept that our actions have consequences. To think of actions shaping feelings is one way we rid ourselves of conventionally accepted assumptions, such as that parents love their children or that one simply falls in love without exercising will or choice, that there are such things as crimes of passion. If we were constantly remembering that love is as love does, we would not use the word in a manner that devalues and degrades its meaning. When we are loving, we openly and honestly express care, affection, responsibility, respect, commitment, and trust. As a child, Bell Hooks read Paul's letter to the church in Corinth. She memorized those passages, so different from what she experienced in her community and family of origin. She returned to them over the years as she tried to understand love. Some of you may remember that my sabbatical project, discovered along the way, was to love myself more intentionally. And one of my starting places was to read Bell Hook's classic, All About Love. Hooks starts by defining love, as in our reading, as nurturing growth. And reading it during this period of nurturing my own growth was a steadying force. I recommend that everyone read this beautiful and empowering book, but here are some handy takeaways. Love is not how we feel, it's what we do. It's the choices we make to prioritize that growth we're nurturing. Love extends itself, takes risks, doesn't hedge. Love is not too cool. And like in Paul's letter, is definitely not keeping score. Love is concerned with justice, not as in who wins, but what is right. Do the rules work the same way for everyone? And does everyone get a fair shot? Does everyone have autonomy? If love is about nurturing, can this nurturing take root? Love respects, honors the dignity of the beloved, no matter which relationship, including romantic relationships, but also parents respecting children, individuals respecting their own dignity, communities respecting their members and their neighbors. The kind of love that Hooks writes about is not some groovy thing, it's an all-encompassing ethic of nurture. How would our lives transform if we respected each other's thriving and our own in this way? How would our world transform if love was our guiding force? Sometimes I think that it might sound overly sweet when I talk about love week after week. But when I talk about love, I mean this deep commitment to the energetic nurture of the world that could be, doing small things with great love, but also having the courage to do big things with great humility. The world needs this love and this understanding of love so badly. This nurture is incompatible with objectification, violence, war, oppression, and most of the things that fill my news feed. I don't feel like today is the day for a list of all of the wrongs and isms. They're still there, whether we name them or not. But it's love that is the antidote. I will name briefly that the Unitarian Universalist Association has joined with a coalition of faith groups in a lawsuit against the new administration's policy allowing immigration raids in houses of worship. It is love, not the feeling, but the doing, that is the antidote to so much wrong. Creating cultures of generosity, interdependence, diversity, equity, possibility until they become the norm. Creating relationships of trust and honesty. Creating, not consuming. This nurture, this choice to extend ourselves, this is love. Let's sing hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the dark night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love
I invite you to join me in reciting our congregation's covenant. Love is the spirit of this community. We dwell together in peace. We seek truth and justice in love. We honor everyone's worth and dignity, and we do the work of building the beloved community in our world. You may not be surprised by now that love is the most common word in our hymnal, if you don't count little words like the. You may not even be surprised that this service was planned as a way for us to sing a bunch of our favorite love hymns the weekend of that holiday where everyone was talking about love anyway, at least the romantic kind. It's a little bit of a bummer that we couldn't be together to hear one another singing them. But it is love that led us to move the service onto Zoom. It was the more loving thing not to ask anyone to come out in the forecast snow and freezing rain on top, even if we miss being in the same space today. Love also comes up 3 times in the 38 words of our congregation's covenant. We've been reciting our covenant a lot this year, at least once a month, but sometimes more. It feels important to remember that this is what we're here for, what we offer one another, how we intend to be together. Love is our business, but it's also our way. I'm not going to claim that no one has ever been rude in a committee meeting or impatient in the chat of a Sunday service. We've all been there. But love reminds us that no one wins church. If someone's winning, we're all losing. Sometimes it feels like the visions of the congregation where we nurture each other, nurture our own spirits, and nurture the beloved community where all people can thrive are at odds. Where one vision of the congregation is prominent, more prominent than others. If we take Hook's consistent ethic of love to heart, they are all part of the same practice of love. We need all three. And by that, I don't mean that we'll divide up into separate factions of loving self, one another, and the world, but we'll feel the interplay between the three. In loving someone else, we might remember to give that same sort of love to ourselves. What we learn in our personal relationships might lead us into deeper commitment to justice, or vice versa. Our self-nurturing will feed our other relationships and our relationship with the world. We say every week, as part of our welcome, that we are all learning, all growing, all loved. We come into community to practice, to reach out to one another because we need one another as teacher, as mirror, as inspiration, as witness, as friend, as collaborator. Where better to grow in your self-understanding and relational capacity than a community committed to human dignity and the nurture of a better world? Where better to try new things, to expand your capacity for challenge? Where better to learn to accept kindness or learn to enact kindness in new ways? Where better to learn patience than among human beings who are also still learning patience? This love we offer to one another. It isn't perfect, but I know it saves us over and over again from loneliness, from lack of purpose, from distorted self-image. And I do believe it can be part of saving the world, empowering us to love boldly everywhere we go, reminding us that we each have something priceless to offer and are worthy of receiving as well. Let's sing hymn number 18, What Wondrous Love.
Thank you.
What wondrous love is this, oh my soul, oh my soul? What wondrous love is this, oh my soul? What wondrous love is this that brings my heart such bliss and take away the pains of my soul, of my soul, and take away the pains of my soul? When I was sinking down, sinking down, sinking down. When I was sinking down, sinking down. When I was sinking down beneath my sorrowed ground, friends to be gathered round, oh my soul, oh my soul. Friends to be gathered round, oh my soul. To love and to all friends I will sing, I will sing. To love and to all friends I will sing. To love and to all friends who pain and sorrow lent, with thanks unto the Lord do I sing, I will sing. And thanks unto the end I will sing.
Our prayer this morning was written by the Reverend Egbert Ethelred Brown, who was the founding pastor of the Harlem Unitarian Church. As we face a troubled and puzzled world, we too are troubled and puzzled. As our fond dreams remain unrealized and our bright hopes of yesterday wither in the bitter disappointments of today, our courage fails, our spirits droop, our faith trembles, and frustrated we bow our heads in despair. Nevertheless, we come to God in this hour of worship, in this house of prayer. As we pray for peace in our time, O God, may we be at peace with the world, with ourselves, and with Thee. May we know that without love, there will never be peace. Teach us, therefore, to love. Amen.
This day we come once more together as winds of earth call for our names. I need no hope for the strength of His throne. May we come rejoicing, determined.
You are loved. Share this love with the world and go in peace.